In recent years, yoga really has become all the rage. And with us in studio, we have the lovely Victoria Csarmann of the movement to chat to us about how it's grown since its inception in 2014. Victoria, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So we've been hearing a lot about this revolution. Tell me a little bit about it and the history behind it.
Sure. A few years ago, I wanted to start doing yoga myself, and I was very intimidated by the studio setup, you know, going somewhere where people have been doing yoga for a long time. You're in a room with a lot of people who know what they're doing. They're very close to you. You know, if you have physical space issues, if you have anxiety, claustrophobia, that gets quite intimidating. So I actually spent many years wanting to do yoga and never doing yoga. And then one day I decided to sort of maybe see if I could get a private yoga teacher who would work just with me until I'm comfortable enough to go. And it turned out to be really difficult to find somebody, and it turned out to be really difficult to sort of find a setup like that. So I thought, why not start something like that for Cape Town? And it ended up being something that people seem to really respond to. And it turns out that Cape Town has a huge yoga movement, but an even bigger potential yoga movement that doesn't fit into the current yoga movement. So that's how the revolution happened.
So why do you think yoga has become so big in Cape Town?
Generally, I think in the world, yoga's become quite big. For one, you see a lot of famous people doing yoga when they go to interviews and people ask them, how do you stay fit, how do you stay lean? Very often the answer will be yoga or Pilates or something similar, but also because people are starting to recognize the benefit of what yoga does for you, both physically and mentally. You know, in a world where you don't even have a minute to take for yourself, yoga gives you the opportunity to take 60 to 90 or however long you want to dedicate to it, to just focus on yourself, on your well-being, and just on whatever you want to focus on. So I think that's quite valuable.
So from what I understand, there's quite a couple of branches of yoga. Which ones do you specialize in?
Well, we have a lot of different yoga teachers. So the Revolution basically started as a collaboration with different yoga teachers. Because of the fact that everybody sort of is in different areas, it just ended up being a group of always between 10 and 20 yoga teachers. And many of them have different styles. So the most well-known or popular style is Vinyasa yoga, which incorporates movement with breath. You get quite a sweat up, you feel quite active in the class, but we also have teachers that are trained in Ashtanga yoga. We have somebody...
So what is Ashtanga yoga?
Ashtanga yoga is a set series of very strong poses. So one woman once said to me, if you do Ashtanga yoga, you don't have to do weights, you don't have to go to the gym. Because it's a very, very strong type of yoga, very disciplined, because you always do the same poses. And yeah, it's very different to Vinyasa, which has a lot more flexibility, a lot more openness to it.
And what are the benefits of doing yoga?
The benefits are different for everyone. So you'll see that everyone does yoga for a very different reason. But in general, yoga creates this state of well-being for you that catches a lot of people by surprise. So very often you'll see somebody feeling so good after a yoga class that they want to take that into the rest of their life. So it encourages people to just make little changes in their life that make them feel better, that improve their quality of life. And in general, yoga makes you extremely strong, and extremely strong in a way that's healthy for your body. It's not hard on your joints. It's not, you don't find this disbalance in, oh, you've worked your biceps a lot, but your legs are weak or something like that. It's a full body workout if you want to take it in terms of workout, but it also spends a lot of time focusing on your inner well-being and on your balance and mental health.
From what I understand, it's you work according to your own body's capacity.
Exactly. So what you'll very often hear a yoga teacher saying is, this is your practice, your body. And what we try to sort of bring across is that you shouldn't be looking at the person next to you doing handstands. You don't know what her context or his context is. Your body is what you're working with, and sometimes there's certain poses that work really well for you, certain things that work, or styles that work really well for you, and sometimes they don't. And that's something that you need to learn to accept about your body, and not just accept, but also cherish. And everybody is extremely different, and it's a beautiful thing, and you should work with what you have and appreciate what you have.
And then just lastly, before we actually head and do some yoga, how practically, how does your setup work? Like, where can people go to do the yoga?
So the Revolution is what we call mobile yoga. So often people ask us, where can we find you? We don't have a studio. So that's basically what defines us. We are not studio yoga. So mobile yoga means we specialize in private yoga. So we go to people's homes. Corporate yoga, doing yoga in offices and corporate environments, which has become a huge thing and super important. Yoga experiences. So for tourists and visitors, for example, we go up Table Mountain, we do a sunset class. Boulders Beach, doing yoga among the penguins, stuff like that. And then for people who are more local and want something more attainable, we have our summer outdoor yoga classes, which are every Saturday at 9 a.m. in the company's garden, and every Sunday at 6 p.m. for sunset on Clifton 3rd Beach. And those are not just financially, but also in terms of level, very accessible to everyone because they're extremely cheap. We don't want yoga to be something exclusive and elite. We want it to be for everybody. So that's the sort of setup that we've created, that for 40 or 50 Rand you can join a yoga class that's for all levels. And the beauty about these classes is the diversity. If you go to one of these classes, you'll have people of all ages, sizes, walks of life, anyone you don't see in a yoga studio, and they'll come to those classes, and it's a...
Well, that sounds amazing. Thanks for coming to studio.
Thank you for having me.
I'm totally am. Stay tuned because Duncan and I are going to be testing our yoga abilities right after this.
Okay, we're going to do a mini vinyasa class, which basically means that we're going to do that style that combines breath with movement. We don't have a lot of time, so we're going to just compress it into one little thing, where we usually do a nice warm-up, then we go into different forms of sun salutations and sequences, then you do a nice wind down with core movement until you get a bit of a stretch, and finally you're put into Shavasana, which is basically the end destination of most or any yoga classes, where you get to relax and just be yourself for a bit. So Chanel's going to take you through the poses, and I'll do a bit of the explaining.
Okay, so just for a warm-up, you can come standing in the middle of your mat, feet hip distance apart, so toes and heels grounded, relaxing your shoulders, arms down to the sides, and just closing your eyes.
So you're basically grounding through your feet, meaning that you have balance in all four corners of your feet. You're not leaning in one direction or the other, and you're just trying to create a posture that's healthy and comfortable for you.
The most important thing for your practice is to connect with your breath. In yoga, we do what's called using our Ujjayi breath, where we're actually keeping our mouth closed. We're breathing in through our nose, expanding the lungs, almost breathing into the belly. And as we exhale, we're exhaling out through our nose as well. So the intention to keep the mouth closed is to keep that heat and energy flowing through the body to help you into the practice. Just connecting with your breath.
So they're just going to go into a bit of breath work here, letting them connect to their breath, which is very important in yoga. So your breath is primary, your movements are secondary, and everything else should be falling to the background.
You can open up your eyes, you can breathe in, take your arms all the way up overhead, connecting the hands together, and then rotating, pressing the arms down and up towards the center. So just opening the chest, reaching out from the feet, taking a deep breath in to lengthen the spine, and then as you exhale, you can reach over to the right side. Opening the chest, lengthening through the arms, pressing your hips in the opposite direction.
Coming into a nice side bend here. Lets you stretch your sides, stretch your arms, your shoulders, and also opens your chest up nicely, preparing you for your yoga class.
Then as you breathe in, use that inhale to come back up to the center. Try to relax the shoulders a bit, but still lengthen the arms. Inhale, exhale over to the other side. Very nice. So just connecting with your breath, using your inhale to help you get more length. And as you breathe out, maybe going a little bit further into the stretch. Inhale, come back to the middle, and then taking your arms out to a T.
So as you see, what's really important here is to move with your breath.
And then just to warm up our shoulders, our wrists a little bit, we're going to rotate our arms, left arm up, right arm down. Just to roll out the shoulders, stretch out our biceps, and change directions. Let's do one more on each side. Coming back to the middle on our last one, and then just lift our
A lot of the poses in yoga take you upside down, reversing your blood flow and giving you a bit of a stretch in the back of your body. The important thing here, especially if you feel tight in your hamstrings, is to bend your knees a little bit to protect your lower back and to make sure that you're hinging forward from the hips rather than using your lower back to reach the ground. A lot of people do yoga or don't do yoga because they think it's important to get your forehead to your knees, that you need to touch your nose to your knees. That is not what yoga is about. What you're doing right now is just folding onto yourself and giving yourself a moment to relax, reverse the blood flow, slow the heart rate, and breathe.
Then from there, if you need to bend your knees, we're going to take our hands down to the mat. So taking your hands onto the mat, maybe walking them a little bit further forward. Just step one foot at a time to the back of the mat and what's called a half plank. So hands below the shoulders, toes and heels together. Alignment is important, so keeping the hips up. Then slowly lower down onto the knees, bending the elbows backwards, so not to the sides or Csarmann. Flip the tops of the feet over onto the mat. Inhale, come up, upward facing dog.
So this is one part of the foundation of a vinyasa class, a part of your sun salutation, where you see that you've gone from a high plank that engages the core and is really important for your alignment, and you move towards the ground and back up. So a sun salutation will have a nice flow to it.
So you really want to spread the fingers wide, pressing them into the mat. Roll your shoulders back, a nice long turtleneck, and bring your heels of your feet together, not falling out to the sides. Take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, press the hips a little further down to the mat. Deep breath in, and as you exhale, flip one foot over at a time and we'll press back into a downward facing.
You're in downward facing dog now, which is one of the most fundamental poses of yoga. Sometimes as yoga teachers, we forget how difficult this pose can be. And you'll find very often that it takes you weeks and weeks and weeks, if not months, to become quite comfortable in your downward dog. What's important is to do it properly, as when you fundamentalize your practice, you're less likely to hurt yourself and you're more likely to improve. So the more you practice this properly, the easier it's going to become, and the more natural this pose ends up being. And eventually, if you practice it well enough, it becomes your resting pose. So right now, you guys might be feeling a bit of burning in the shoulders, in the legs. This might feel like the most uncomfortable thing you've ever done, but that sensation passes, and that's what the point of practicing your yoga regularly does.
Okay, now slowly taking a deep breath in.
So we're going to wind it up, wrap it up, and get to the end of the sun salutation so that Chanel can bring you into Shavasana, which is basically the end of the class.
You're going to slowly walk your feet back to the front of the mat. Keeping your head nice and heavy. You're going to inhale, halfway lift with a flat back. Then exhale, fold back forward. Inhale, rise all the way up, arms out to the side for mountain pose. And hands together for side.
So this is how you'll finish your sun salutations. You're in equal standing pose, and what you'd usually do is come into a nice relaxing to the ground. But we'll finish it here for now.